program that we had yesterday. I think it was pretty exciting, interesting. There's more very interesting presentation that will happen today. But there is another business that we usually conduct at the annual meeting. It's also showing our recognitions to a person that made really the step more, went beyond the call of duty for the PVC business and the association. So I would say that this year the choice was very, very easy. And in fact, it's pretty astonishing that that person was nominated a few years ago already, or more than a few years. That person has been working for almost 30 years in our industry, tirelessly advocating to increase market shares, opportunities for PVC pipes. He recently received other awards for the work he has been doing on behalf, and now I will give you a strong indication, of the PVC from the Canadian Plastics Industry Association and the Vinyl Institute. A former chair of our association, in fact, and I had to do the count 3 times yesterday night around midnight in my bed, it was 4 times past chair. He was responsible for helping innovate and restructure Unibel, commissioned the now almost world-famous Utah State University water main break study, and in fact many others, that shows PVC to be the best performing material. And as you may have heard already, this study was cited by Congress and has been critical to opening new markets for our industry. And most recently was used in Montreal against iron and concrete. And as you will be heard from another speaker today, it has been also used in Michigan already for some cities to make a very important step in our direction. His intelligence, integrity, and loyalty combined with inexhaustible passion. Just ask him about Nikola Tesla. Creativity, gumption, and a little bit of magic have made him a potent ambassador and statesman for PVC pipe. He even met and meet ambassadors. For those who remember when the Buy American protectionist policies threatened the free movement of ore products between Canada and the US, he played a key role in securing a solution for our industry by working directly with the Canadian ambassador in Washington, D.C. He cuts through tough issues effortlessly. He's a consummate bridge builder and fosters solidarity among competitors. Always a champion and a warrior for our cause, who is on a mission to win our industry is much better because of him. Vesa Sobot, finally is there. For those who don't know him, it's not possible. Understands that strategy is key to business. Long-term strategy and long-term relationship, in fact. More than a decade ago, he approached Greenpeace co-founder Patrick Moore, which for those who may not, to help stem attacks against PVC. Long after that, Patrick Moore referenced the benefits of PVC pipe in his best-selling book, and still regularly tweets about PVC today. He is a friend of our industry because Vesa. and having a friend that at the same time can say, I was the founder of Greenpeace, I can tell you this is quite a statement. Long-term strategy and ongoing relationships, together with technical public policy and political engagement, are critical to winning against a deeply entrenched and well-financed and well-organized adversary like the Ducking iron pipe industry. Thank you for showing us the way. Thank you, Wes, for all what you have done to make us better. It's not only great to have you on our team, but it's also rewarding to have the chance to work with you. So if you mind, come please up here on the podium to receive this award.
Short things. Alain, can I take that script from you? Because I want to show my wife that found it. Bruce, I'm going to take his notes.
You can do that.
And secondly, I just want to say thank you so much. I really do feel very fortunate for falling into this industry 31 years ago. And I really am stunned by the outstanding talent that we've had in our industry over the years, and I've been the benefactor of working with so many extraordinary people. So I thank you so much for that. Univel really is the place where we can get together and share and work on items of mutual interest that often are very difficult to do alone. And it's been nothing but a pleasure. I believe we have another an amazing 30 years ahead of us. And the potential is just astounding. So thank you so much. And this means a whole heck of a lot. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That was great. Very well deserved. Okay, we're going to have our first presenter this morning, Larry Gill, Manager Codes and Standards at IPEX Management. He's going to talk to us about the limitations of PPI's PACE program for fatigue analysis of PVC pipes subjected to cyclical or cyclic transient pressures. Larry?
Good morning, everyone. It's a tough act to follow. Congratulations, Tessa.
Thank you very much, man.
Now I know why you brought me.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, good morning. I'm Larry Gill. I am Manager of Codes and Standards for IPEX Inc. And today, here to speak to you regarding PPI PACE program, limitations of PPI's PACE program for fatigue analysis of PVC pipes subjected to cyclic transient pressures. Move on.
That's the other clicker. It's the other clicker up there.
There we go. So a bit of background. PACE is an acronym for Pipe Analysis Calculation Environment. It is a program that was written by the Plastic Pipe Institute, online software program for calculating fatigue failure mode of polyethylene and PVC. And they've also recently added a ductile iron to the program as well. It's gaining in popularity. Their PPI is promoting it, doing presentations in universities and other places. And you can see there's a fairly large number of hits in a very short time. The problem is that the PACE results almost always underestimate the resistance of PVC pipes to fatigue failure. And in fact, the results indicate that many existing systems should have already failed. There's been a PVC industry response. The first was from the PVC Pipe Association. John Houle, a technical director, with the assistance of the technical committee, wrote a technical brief in 2013, and that document is available at the back of the room and also online. I'll just read to you a couple of conclusions from that document. The PVC Pipe Association recommends if PPI wants to promote its new design tool, it should be done for PE pipe alone. PVC pipe design should be done per Appendix B of the AWWA C900 or per the Handbook of PVC Pipe. And you're welcome to download that document and take it with you. The second industry response was a paper that IPEX sponsored, a peer-reviewed paper done by Dr. Brian Carney and Dr. Ahmad Malikpour. And there's a copy of a screenshot there of the title. And you recall that Dr. Carney is an expert in transient analysis, and he was before this group, I think in 2014. I have a copy of his presentation here. The title of that presentation was Hydraulic Transients, Risks and Consequences. And Dr. Carney is a preeminent expert in surge and transient analysis, and Dr. Malikpour is an associate of his. And so IPEX decided that we wanted to have an independent peer-reviewed look at the PACE program, and that was performed by Dr. Malikpour, Dr. Carney, and there's co-authors listed on the paper, myself, Richard St-Aubin, and Philip Martino, the three of us from IPEX. So before we get into the comparative analysis that Dr. Carney and Dr. Malikpour performed, just a few slides on the basics of fatigue in PVC pipe, or in pipe in general. Fatigue occurs when materials are exposed to considerable cyclic pressures or stress. If it's severe, it can significantly reduce a piping system's useful life. PVC pipe systems have significant capacity for tolerating transient pressures. It appears that PACE is attempting to make transient pressures an issue when for the most part they're not. So PVC pipe systems, as I said, are very tolerant. There are some reasons that PVC can be susceptible, or plastic in general can be susceptible to fatigue failure. The first reason is that they often experience greater transient cycling, and as such they require less surge control than traditional materials, such as ductile iron. Also, plastics are highly flexible, and they absorb more energy during each transient cycle, and that can have an impact on their life and fatigue, from fatigue. And the reason is that this energy needs to be dissipated, and that can be dissipated in the form of fatigue. There's many standards on how to manage fatigue and design for it. In the United States and Canada, we use AWWA C900 and C905. And I've also listed a couple of other applicable standards from other parts of the world. Most standards calculate the number of cycles to failure based on a mean hoop stress in the pipe during transients, an estimate of the recurrent surge amplitude, and there's a detailed example in the AWWA C900 Appendix B, as well as the Unibel Handbook, Chapter 5. And I don't intend to give a surge analysis 101 course today. For one, I'm not qualified, and two, you can look in the book for that. The main purpose of today is to look at the analysis performed by Dr. Carney and Dr. Malikpour. Fatigue analysis of PVC pipes is challenging. It's highly sensitive to input parameters, particularly the recurrent surge amplitude. Surge amplitude is strongly system independent, changing significantly between systems and modes of operation. So let's look at the design that was performed by Dr. Carney and Dr. Malikpour. They compared two methods. The first is a simplified approach, which is the PACE approach. The second is a thorough approach, which is a full transient analysis. The simplified approach requires certain inputs. It's a computer program, and the computer program has some limitations on the values that you can input. There's a minimum velocity of 4 feet per second that is required, and you're not able to input a lower value. And I've got a couple of screenshots in a minute where I'll show you where you try to put in a lower value, it doesn't permit you to do so. The minimum number of pressure surges per day is at 55, which is the equivalent to 55 instantaneous stops per day, which is a fairly significantly high number for a system to be operating under. But again, the program sets that as the minimum. And further, PACE doesn't permit you to put any design provisions, such as surge suppression systems. The thorough approach is a full transient analysis, which considers a likely mode of operations. It determines the amplitude, the number of cycles of the recurrent surge. It's an actual system that you look at with actual operating conditions, and this analysis is required to be performed by a qualified engineer. It requires communications with operators and engineers to determine site informations, elevations, pumping details, valve sizes, locations, etc. And it requires expertise, time, and money. It is, of course, the correct thing to do, because if you're spending a great deal of money on a piping system, it makes sense to design it properly right out of the gate. So this is the hypothetical pumping system that was looked at when where a comparison was run with PACE and the thorough analysis. The fatigue analysis was conducted in the context of this pumping system for both PACE and the analysis. And then the sensitivity of the results are reviewed, and those are detailed in the paper, and I'm going to present them to you now. So what we have here is a suction reservoir pumping into a terminal reservoir. There are 4 pumps and 4 12-inch needle valves, and then a piping line of 24-inch, which is about 5,000 meters long, or a little over 16,000 feet. When you perform a pumping pipeline design, you typically should be turning to the AWW C905 or the PVC handbook, and the way you begin is you select a working pressure and a transient pressure. In this case, it was selected at 268 psi, and the combination of those two values should be less than your short-term pressure rating. And in this case, a DR21 pipe was selected for this example. Here's a verbal showing of the scenarios that were ran. Basically, the pumps are shutting off and on every 10 minutes in various scenarios. And the next screen shows a graphical representation of that, where you can see the green is on and the red is off. And again, we need to keep in mind that these are relatively severe scenarios, having these pumps shut off and on with hard stops. And in fact, for scenario 4, you can see that we have 2 pumps shutting off and on at the same time. So here's a screenshot from PACE. I didn't want to take the risk of going a live demonstration, but when you attempt to put in a value less than 4 feet per second, you get an error message. And when you attempt to put in the number of surges per day less than 55, you also get an error message. So if you do proceed and you put in the 4 and the 55 in this particular example, you can see in the lower right-hand corner that you get a lifetime for the product. It's hard for me to see, but I think it's 29 years, and you get a failure for fatigue analysis. So the PACE program would show the user of the program that PVC would fail with these in this particular type of design. Now, these are the results of the detailed transient analysis performed by Dr. Carney and Dr. Malipour. And you can see the surge amplitude calculated is 12.5, whereas PACE gives you a value of 64. And as we look at some of these graphs, you'll notice that PACE, the value is always 64. And here's another snapshot of another section of the graph that shows 17.5 versus PACE again at 64. For scenario 2, we can see a 30 psi calculated versus PACE of 64. And then for scenario 3, we can see 12.5, PACE 64, 22.5, PACE 64. In scenario 4, we're a little closer, but still far off, 50 psi, versus PACE of 64. So this is a summary of the results. You can see that PACE calculates 29 years across the board, regardless of the system design or the operation of the system. And an actual transient analysis, the range is from 66 years to over 1,100 years. So quite a huge difference. And the reason, of course, is that these, the system design or the reaction is very responsive to the numbers that I showed a second ago. These levels here, when you're getting 50 versus 64, or 22 versus 64. 40 psi doesn't appear to be much, but in the transient analysis, it's quite significant. Apologize, this is a little tiny, but Dr. Malakpour also ran some scenarios with different dimension ratios, and you can see that the lifetime, again, from PACE shows values of, I think, 4 years to 58 years. So again, not a good outcome for PVC pipe. So to conclude, fatigue analysis is clearly highly sensitive to the recurrent surge amplitude. In practice, it's quite system dependent, and a thorough transient analysis is needed for careful assessment of fatigue. For a great many systems and operations, fatigue is not likely to be a design constraint of PVC pipes. The PACE program is simplified, highly conservative, and does not include the type and mode of operation of a pipe system in its fatigue analysis. I've got a couple of quotes here from the paper, and there are copies of the paper available, I believe, at the back of the room, and you can also get them from me or any of the Unibel staff. Just read these to you. The results show somewhat predictably that the analysis of fatigue in PVC pipes is crucially system dependent. Thus, the concept used by the PACE program is overly simplistic. It is also shown that even when there is little transient pressure or no cyclic loading during system operation, PACE still shows a fatigue-based failure for PVC pipes. This lack of responsiveness in real conditions means the program results can be unreliable and misleading. Here's a few recommendations from my perspective as to what we can do to try to get this corrected. The first is to work with PBI to get them to make changes to PACE, at least for the PVC side. IPEX, we are members at PBI. When the program first came out, we submitted negatives that were not accommodated, but we're hoping now, with having this paper in our back pocket, that we can be a little more convincing to at least get them to allow different parameters to be input into the program. So we're working with PBI now, and those discussions are ongoing. The industry and all of us here should communicate the results of this response paper. It'll be made available to each one of us, so if you want to distribute that, feel free to do so. And advise Unibel staff or myself, if you become aware of PACE presentations, we're quite happy to respond perhaps with our own presentation in the same forum as where the PACE is being presented to set the record straight for PVC. And thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Larry. Okay, our next presenter, you all know very well. He's on our board of directors, great partner of our association, Dick Doyle, president and CEO of the Vinyl Institute. He's going to talk to us about two things: collaborating with the association to grow markets. We've got lots of stuff going on there. As well, his colleague Christian Barkin, VP Sustainability, his wife's going to have a child, so he wasn't able to make it, so he's going to cover for that presentation as